Here's another moment from that debate on CNN. Those debates are great. I mean, broadly speaking, I think they're great. And here's another moment.
I crushed it.
This is not Bernie Sanders. This is actually reminiscent of that moment where Gary Cohn was at a CEO meeting, some tech thing or Wall Street Journal thing, and they asked the audience, okay, who here is going to take the tax cuts, the corporate tax cuts, and invest in capital, right? Which is basically like, who's going to put their money back into their business? Who's going to pay their workers more money? Who's going to expand, buy more warehouses or factories or bakeries or whatever it is? Who's going to do that? And one or two people in the audience raised their hand. So much so that Gary Cohn was like, where's all the hands? Because this CEO who showed up at this CNN debate, he explains to Senator Tim Scott what is going to happen to the money. Because why? I mean, if there's ever been a more CEO nature than this, it's like, you're going to give me extra money that I get to decide where it goes. Well, guess where it's going to go? As much to me as possible. And when it doesn't go to me, it's going to go to the people who support me being in this position to have access to that money. And that's the board of directors, and that's the shareholders. Everybody else, not so much.
CEO who takes issue with the promise that this tax cut will create jobs. David Mendels served as CEO of Bright Cove, an online video platform with more than 500 employees, and he has a question for Senator Scott.
Senator Scott, thank you.
Hey.
So in my experience as CEO at a public company, I can tell you our investors would have been delighted at any tax cut which improved our profit.
David, can you hold the microphone up?
Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Scott, in my experience as a CEO at a public company, I can tell you that our investors would have been delighted at any tax cut that improved our profitability. But it would not have led to more hiring or an increase in wages. It just wouldn't. It never came up. What do you say to employees of companies like mine and many millions of others who won't get higher wages as a direct result of lower corporate taxes? But the corporate investors and the executives like myself will get a very large benefit.
Well, thank you for your question, and thank you for your investment in the American economy. I, too, owned a private C corporation years ago, and it's true for private companies as well as public companies. There are three groups of individuals who actually pay taxes. One, as you suggested, are the investors. The second are the employees. When you have a 35% rate, employees paid the tax by lower actual wages. And the third group are consumers. Consumers pay the tax through higher cost of goods. So the reality of it is, the answer to the question is that the vast majority of companies will do one of three things with the capital. They will reward investors, they will reward employees, and sometimes consumers will pay less. As a matter of fact, this is not a center-right conversation.
Pause it for 1 second. Pause 1 second. So he was right for part of that. He said, they're going to do one of three things. And then he sort of realized, like, oh, wait a second. I got to pretend like they're going to do three of three things. And you know what the incentive of that CEO to reward the shareholders is? It's because the shareholders keep him in his job, and his salary is loaded with stock shares. And why is that? Because stocks, when he gets profits from those, they're actually taxed at a rate less than what they pay him to be the CEO. So this guy wants to load up on the value of his stock shares. But what about the board of directors? What about the board of directors say, like, hey man, you should really invest this in R&D, or you should invest this in increasing the wages of our workers so they're more productive even, or you should lower the prices so we're more competitive in the market. Well, those board of directors, guess how they get paid? Their value of their stocks. So they have all the incentive to do that thing. But number two and number three, no. No, there's no And where's the power of the labor to demand that they're going to get that? They can walk off, but there's no reason why the next company is going to do anything different. Their unions have been decimated. That's what happens. And if Tim Scott had a chance to read the report from Treasury before they pulled it down, the Treasury generated report from the Bush administration, he would know that. Let's just play just a little bit more.
Conversation having been had on the left as well as the right, economists on both sides of the aisle agree that the corporate tax is a burden shared by the employees of the company and the consumers of those products.
Senator Cantwell?
Yeah, no. Nope. Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos